What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going over the trade deadline update to the custom roster updated last week. Real quick, I want to thank you guys so much for watching that video as well as downloading the roster. 2,500 downloads in a little over a week is pretty amazing. And real quick, guys, before I forget, if you wouldn't mind leaving a thumbs up on this video, obviously rosters take a lot of time, a lot of work, so I'd really appreciate it. The new roster is TacTixHD Roster 2. As you guys can see in the description, I've put in through all the trades from the trade deadline. I added more custom prospects, so now every single player that was drafted first round 2022 and projected to go first round 2023 is in this roster. As well as I fixed a bunch of the ratings and potentials on current players. Some of the guys I just missed, as well as some of it was taking your guys' feedback on the last video. Of course, if you're not in the Series X, I will quickly show you guys, some of the big changes I made so you can implement them to your own roster. So there's now around 60 custom prospects in this roster, which I think is a good number. If you add too many, it kind of like overfloods franchise. But first things first, guys, I actually made some changes to Adam Fantilli. Obviously, gonna go second overall behind Bedard, but like if Bedard wasn't in this draft, he is a very good first overall pick. So 81 overall now, which makes him NHL ready out of the draft, highly potential. Also, to reading scouting reports, a bunch of them just raved about his skating. So I made sure to improve his skating as well. I gave him the wheels X factor along with the ankle breaker X factor because they said how like he makes really nice moves at top speed, which is literally what ankle breaker is. So a bit of a change there to Fantilli. I did want to tweak him a bit as well. I didn't feel like he was semiing well enough, so hopefully that fixes him. As well too, I should point out in the latest NHL 23 update, they actually fixed the bug where you couldn't look at players. So I was actually able to go in and adjust how some of them look. So right there, for instance, you guys can see Fantilli. It's not going to be perfect, obviously. With 60 custom prospects, I didn't do this for everybody, just kind of like the big name players. And like right here, for instance, you guys can see Matvei Michkov. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a lot better than just like the actual generic face. Right here, you guys can see Adam Jaracek. He's actually the brother of David Jaracek, which I think is very, very cool. I'll be a first-round pick in 2024. Alexander Nikishin here. Vasi actually suggested I add, so he's a top prospect in the KHL, drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes. You guys can see him now in game. Now after that, the rest of these guys are the same for the most part. Until we get to Daniel Butt here, he's supposed to be a first-round pick this year's draft. 6'5" sniper, so definitely kind of like an interesting player. Curious to see how he does. And then after him, we got Dmitry Simashev, another Russian player. He's supposed to go mid-first round this year's draft, defensive defenseman. So make sure to add him again. I want to have all the prospects supposed to go first round this year as well as anyone who went first round last year. Also, guys, I skipped over him, but Drew Comisto here, Chicago Blackhawks goalie prospect, 65 high starter. Supposed to be one of the better goalie prospects in the NHL. Plus, honestly, there aren't that many good goalie prospects, so I don't mind, adding some here. Next, we have Gabe Perreault. He's actually the son of Yannick Perreault, which is pretty cool. He's supposed to be like a mid-first round pick this year, so you guys can see a few X factors, 68, medium top 6. And right here, of course, are his stats. After him, Henry Thun. He's like a decent prospect, but main reason I have him in the game is because he's involved in one of the trades at the deadline. So because I can't move picks, that's probably something I should have mentioned earlier. There's no picks moved in my roster because I'm simply not able to. It really sucks. He doesn't let us do that, but when I can, I kind of add prospects that teams made trades for. That way they don't get completely screwed. But honestly, most of the trades at this deadline were just picks, which kind of sucks. Now, Ivan Demidov here, he's actually supposed to be like a top 10 pick 2024. I've seen some scouts call him like Michkov Light, so that's kind of what I built him around. He's just a sniper there. Curious to see how he does. And then after him, I've actually added Josh Doan. He's the son of Shane Doan, currently playing for the Arizona State Sun Devils, and of course, he was drafted by the Coyotes. So it's kind of cool that he's playing for the Sun Devils in the same arena that'll eventually play for the Coyotes in. I actually gave him Born Leader X Factor there because he's the captain of his college team, plus of course his dad, long-term captain of the Coyotes. Next year, you got Konstalinas. I'm sure I butchered his name. Could be a top 5 pick in 2024. Finnish playmaker. You guys can see his X factors and stats there. After him, I know some people asked me to improve Jimmy Stuggerud, so I did that. He's now 72 there with a couple X factors. And the next new prospect here is Mikhail Guliev, supposed to be mid-first round pick this year. Offensive defenseman, you guys can see 65 high top 4. Stan Duplika should go over him, so that's why he's slightly higher rated. Then we have Nikita Nesterenko. I think he got traded to the Ducks by the Wild in the Klingberg trade. So again, 70 overall, low top 6. He's actually looking pretty good right now in college. Riker Evans here is actually in the game if you download like EA's recent roster update, but he wasn't in mine, so I pretty much just copied him over, but I think I made some slight tunes there to him to make him a little bit better, essentially. And the next year, guys, you got Sam Rinzel. He was actually drafted by Chicago Blackhawks last year, first round. I think he was like the only 2022 first-round pick I didn't have in the game yet, so he's now in the game. Pretty solid top defenseman there. Potential's medium top 4. And then VT Vasanainen. He could also go top 5 2024 Finnish defenseman. Pretty much locked to be a top 10 pick. So you guys can see pretty good X factors there. Medium elite potential, 92 overall, all his stats. So that's a look, guys, at the added custom prospects. Again, I feel like that's a pretty good number. And now just to make sure this video doesn't go on for too long, I'm not going to go through like every single team, but I do want to show you guys, a few things. First things first, I actually updated Jake DeBrusk. I forgot to do that in the last one, so he's now 85 overall there. And obviously, guys, to the trade deadline roster updates, you can see everyone that's got traded is put through. So we got Patty Kane there on the Rangers, Tarasenko on the Rangers as well. They're both only making $1 million. Now this is just to make sure the Rangers are cap compliant. So like when you start the franchise, it's not going to lower, say, Fox and Panarin's contracts to make sure everyone fits into the game. This makes more sense because Kane, Tarasenko, of course, aren't expiring deals. If you do it the other way, essentially the Rangers get Fox and Panarin for cheaper, which doesn't make as much sense as guys like Kane and Tarasenko who are just rentals. Also, too, guys, in the last video, you pointed out how I forgot to show the AHL goalies, so just kind of showing the top ones here. Sagar, 74 overall, medium starter with the X-ray X factor, because dude's 6'7". It's going to be pretty tough to screen him. On the Wranglers here, Dustin Wolf, 78 high starter, a few X factors, one of the better goalie prospects in the NHL. Aside from those guys, you can see, for instance, like Noljevic there on the Griffins, 80 overall. A guy like him, like, it was really hard to rate because obviously the last 2 seasons he played well. This season, though, has been really, really rough. So it's like, what do you give him? You guys can see Costa there, his X factors and potential. Same thing, too, if you go to Ontario Reign, Cal Peterson there, 80 overall. He's having a bad year. Hasn't had as much success, I think, as Noljevic. So low starter, although he's 27, doesn't really matter. I feel like those guys, could bounce back, which is why they're an 80. Now, the other top goalie prospect AHL, Joel Hofer there, 76 high starter. And I think that's, like, pretty much it. And I'm constantly trying to get more of an accurate draft, guys, based on, like, all the mock drafts I read. So, Crystal here, his rating's gone up. Braden Yeager's actually kind of fallen in the draft ranking, so he's only got high top 6 now. Riley Heidt there is supposed to be, like, top 15, maybe top 10. So I've actually boosted his rating and gave him some X factors. If you guys are curious, Connor Bedard, no changes. I feel like 85 high franchise Bedard is fun. He's sick, all the X factors. Like, if you get the first overall pick, you want to take Bedard, you want to put him right in your NHL team. Spokane Chiefs there, Berkeley Catton. I think I upgraded his rating a bit just to make sure he is top 5 2024. And like I mentioned, there were some prospects I forgot to update in the last roster. For instance, David Reinbacher here, 1768 high top 4 now, a couple X factors. He's supposed to be like a mid first round pick this year. I think EA had him at like not even a 60 with maybe medium top 6 D potential. So again, he's like an actual prospect. We want him higher in the draft than the computer-generated ones. And now one more change I made with this roster, guys, was actually putting all the players that are on LTIR into free agency. So Shea Weber, Mike Smith, Carey Price, Brian Little, etc. They're all 70 overall. They're all in free agency, so they should retire by the end of the year, at which point I'm hoping they become coaches, become scouts. I think that's really cool. Opposed to we just kind of took them out of the game. Another reason, too, I took them off the NHL teams because they take up a contract spot, and I didn't realize, but I'm like 99% sure in real life, if they're on LTIR, they don't count for a contract spot. So some teams are kind of getting screwed there. Now, there are some teams like the Coyotes, so I had to leave Andrew Ladd and Jacob Horchek on. Otherwise, they just wouldn't have the salary cap minimum. But for any other team, I just got rid of their LTIR guys. Also, guys, looking at my roster and wondering why Andrew Ladd makes $12.5 million. That's why it ensures the Coyotes hit the salary cap minimum the first season, and then in the summer they can go crazy spending. But I still have the Voracek signed there for a couple years just to make it easier for them, and that way too they're not signing like every big name free agent. And next, you guys want to show what the updated team ratings look like. I mean, look at the Blackhawks here. Top players: Seth Jones, Jonathan Toews, Connor Murphy. Are you kidding me? They are, if you couldn't guess, the lowest rated team in the NHL now. 81 overall there. The Coyotes 82 are the second lowest. You can see in the Pacific, the Flames, the Golden Knights, both 90s. Oilers 89. Over there in the Atlantic, Boston's a 92. Same with Tampa Bay. Toronto there 89. The Metro, really no bad team outside of the Columbus Blue Jackets. I guess Philly's kind of meh at 86, but I think, these ratings are all pretty accurate. And I think I mentioned in my last video, guys, if you use my roster for a franchise, these are the settings I would suggest. So much in scoring medium, so much in shot frequency high. I feel like we got pretty, accurate point production. Also, too, draft class quality and prospect quality both set to low. Now, you could turn up the low to medium, say after like 2026 when Gavin McKenna gets drafted, but until then, I would just leave it. Also, too, attribute effects here set to 9 out of 10 should give you more of an accurate sim. And like I mentioned before, guys, the New York Rangers, you can't get any closer than this, the max salary cap. They are 7K under. Look at that. I've never seen a team that close to max salary, but luckily, you can see Fox still making 9.5, Panarin there, 11.645. None of their contracts change, and they literally have no salary cap room, so I assume the computer would just get a coast through that first year, because it'd be really, really hard for them otherwise, to make a move. I should mention, too, Vegas, I had to, adjust a ton of contracts on, because they're way above the salary cap max, so luckily, they're still under now, but you guys will see a ton of players like Nolan Patrick there, 750K, Barbashev $1 million, Kessel 750K. Their goalies as well, I had to lower a bunch of them. So after Leonard, you got Hill, Quick, Brossois, all at $1 million. They definitely have way too many NHL caliber goalies due to Leonard being out this year, Thompson getting injured. So that's another team. Curious to see what they do in the sim. And in terms of free agency, guys, obviously I made sure there's nothing here. Formanton's an RFA. After him, you're really not getting an improvement on your current NHL team, which is how it should be. If there's a guy available that immediately makes an NHL team, he's way too high rated because otherwise a team in real life would have signed him, right? So that's kind of my logic. You can see there the ratings, the potentials even, there's really no one great here at all. And so I just sent through the season, guys, to kind of see what would happen. Arizona, they're picking first overall. They actually jumped up from 6th last. Detroit picking 2. They finished last in the NHL. LA there, kind of surprisingly, bottom 3 team. Same with Winnipeg. At the bottom, you can see the Rangers and Bruins both missed the playoffs just because the East is that stacked, apparently. I think, surprisingly, Montreal somehow got in, but obviously in their sim, there's always going to be some weird things. The Carolina Hurricanes there won the Stanley Cup. Quickly, just kind of take a look at these awards. They also won the President's Trophy, McDavid, Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Carlson, James Norris, if he was healthy. Jack Quinn, Calder, okay. Anderson, Vezina. Labushkin, Bill Masterton, Canucks coach Jack Adams. They made the playoffs. If they did, I could see him winning that. Barkov, Selke, McDavid, Ted Lindsay, Pasternak, Maurice Richard. Should mention too, of course, Pasternak has his contract extension. Same with Larkin. I made sure to add any of the recent signings to this roster. There you go. McDavid finishes first, 107. Would like to see him put up a bit more points. Pasternak kind of popped off there, but overall, yeah, really, not too bad. You're not going to get an accurate sim every time, and pretty happy with this. Yossi, Carlson at the top. Hughes, D'Angelo, Wrensky, Makar, yeah, this looks solid. Goaltending stats, 918, 2.56 for Anderson. It's also not terrible. And lastly here, guys, I'm curious to see how the first round went. So, Bedard Guzgo 1, Fantilli 2, Michkov 3, Carlson 4. I could have these two the same rating, but I personally think Michkov's slightly better just because of the Russian factor, him staying in the KHL for a few years. Carlson might end up going 3 real life. Made-up guy at 5, Dvorsky there, Smith, Benson, Crystal, Sala, Barlow, Moore, Leonard. This looks like most of the mock drafts I've seen. I don't want to pump myself up too much, but this looks pretty good. You do have 2 computer-generated guys going 18 and 19, both 80 medium elite. So this is the one issue, which is why you have to have it on low, because otherwise there's way too much of this. But yeah, there's really no way to avoid it. I don't know why the computers can't figure out these guys are good. It's kind of funny, honestly. Absolute steals there late. There you go. Yeah, most of these guys, of course, are real players going around where they should be. So yeah, that's very cool to see. Also, too, guys, I quickly simmed the second round. You can see Quentin Musty there actually goes first pick, second round. You got Oliver Bonk, of course, on the London Knights. Brindley there, he plays for Michigan. Lundike here, he's actually a player I really had to boost. EA had him as a 55 medium top 6. He's supposed to go late first round, early second. So you guys can see 62 medium top 4. Definitely kind of better represents that. So if you guys are on the Xbox Series X, hopefully you go and download my roster and have some fun with it. If you're on a different console, hopefully, you learn some things from this video you can apply to your own roster, maybe download somebody else's and tweak it a bit with some of the feedback I've given you today. But that's going to do it, guys, for this video. Like I mentioned before, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, leave that thumbs up. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, hit the sub button down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.